Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for more Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress. This time, Gotfret de Montbard, Imperial Crusader. It sounds like a French name, or French-inspired. I'm gonna try to see if I can get that close to right, but I'll probably butcher it. So I'm gonna start with Shield Brown 09161. I want to give him brown robes as sort of a sign of humility, which is usually not a word associated with the Imperium of Man at all. But the idea kind of popped into my head, and I kind of like the idea that maybe he's not as bombastic as many other servants of the Imperium are, but I'm probably wrong on that, but we're just going to do this anyway. In-game, he's kind of a tank. He's a tank. No range attack, he's just got his power sword and his storm shield. Unlike UR025, the other tanky explorer, he does not have a ranged attack. I believe he does have 4 slots for action dice on his card. And he does not have the ability to recover from grievous wounds mid-game like the Imperial robot does. But and I was almost tempted to watch through Monty Python and the Holy Grail and base his color scheme off Sir Lancelot, but decided against it. I like the brown robes, and going off of there better. So, according to the fiction in the Escalation expansion, de Montbard is the only survivor of a large contingent of crusaders that was dispatched to do something about the Blackstone Fortress, so I'm surprised they haven't sent Astartes in yet, but I'm taking a loose guess that might be how the final expansion, which was announced a while ago, ends. We've got the one with the Zote coming up. That's been delayed just because of the COVID-19 pandemic, so I don't know exactly when that's going to get released, but they showed a picture on Warhammer Community the other day of that model, and they were talking about getting the release schedule back up again. And so I don't know, I'm going to guess either late this year or early next year, 2021, for the final expansion of Blackstone Fortress. Just see what happens. But then again, the Imperium is fractured and does not really communicate that well with itself. Reading Blades of Damocles definitely, Blades of Damocles, not so much Blades of Damocles, but the Rogue Trader Omnibus definitely shows during the Damocles Crusade how fractured the Imperium can be when responding to a threat, how poorly information can pass. Alright, that's a good start, and I'm going to let that dry before I move on to the armor. Kind of want to give him the impression that he's a warrior monk, which he kind of is, so we'll just come back in a bit. And, oh boy, frame drop has begun. So we'll come back in a bit and see where we end up. Alright. Tarnished Steel 09206. This is going on a lot of things. I'm actually going to start on the back side of the storm shield here. I'm using just enough paint. No, getting that backwards. I'm using just enough water to thin the paint. Now, a storm shield is a heavy metal slab that also has a built-in shield generator. So, more effective than you would expect a shield to be in a setting with, guns capable of disintegrating flesh and anything else they happen to touch. And power swords, like all power weapons, have a disruptive energy field that emits through them. Again, makes them much more dangerous and potent than you would expect them to have any right to be. I'm trying to talk in a weird manner. I think I'm overtired. So get his armor here. He is armored from literally head to toe. And that's actually, which is exactly what you would expect from someone using just a sword and shield in a futuristic setting with all manner of lethal projectile weapons available. In fact, you'd probably have to consider Gotfret de Montbard nuts for not taking at least a las pistol. But, now I will be playing around with the shading and highlighting on this armor. Do something kind of fun there. Okay, I think that's the back of this collar. The hood I'm being careful to leave alone. Got two more holy symbols held by chains. And for talk of logic of equipment choices in games like this, well, in the real world, people don't always make logical choices either, so. I'm sure the Adeptus mechanics would have a field day trying to convince this guy to take a gun. But, alright. It's a little more on the helmet, but it's a pretty good coat. So, I'm going to want that dry completely, and then have at it again with more colors. Well, the camera's definitely focusing a little better, but I still need some work done on this. Okay, dry enough I can move on. Antique Gold 09050. Is this where I'm going to go? Yes, it's where I'm going to have to go next, so. Okay. So. That's enough. If it's not, I can just. Alright, I'm starting to ramble. Let's dive into this. So, select parts of the shield. And this is Adeptus Mystorma Iconography. Now, the scroll work on the armor I want in the gold as well. Maybe I need to pick out the boots and another color. Well, you know what? I'm going to get this done first and think about the boots while I do so. hilt of the dagger. I think I might have gone too far there. Belt buckle. These cables and the icon on the chest. I almost knocked over my water. The shoulders have some icons as well. On the back. I'm going to carefully pick out the exterior trim of the coat. There's a faint line here to differentiate it, but it is a little tricky to see, especially as it's closer to the edges, but it stands out a little more on the closer to the interior. So maybe de Montbard in this getup just pretends to be humble, or tries to, or suggests that he's humble when he really isn't. None of the Storm Priest could probably be called humble with a straight face. Getting the entire back side of the power sword. And this pose here, to me, suggests readiness and control, also control. As if de Montbard can see his enemies approaching and is confident enough in his abilities that he can feign weakness, or in this case, seeming unprepared. Though he's more than capable of powering up his storm shield and lifting his blade to a ready position with just a flick of the wrist. And I think I am going to go ahead and go back to the Shield Brown 09161. I'm going to have to do this anyway to get the scabbard his dagger is in, which I have to assume would be at best a backup weapon if something ever manages to disarm him of his power sword. Doesn't appear to be edged at all. And I'm going to go ahead and do the boots below the graves. I was initially thinking that his dagger would be mag-locked to his belt, but looking at it some more, it doesn't seem to have an edge like the power sword does. Over and pick out those boots in the brown. And I'm going to take Yellow Bone 09143. And with this, oh boy, this focus thing, I will get it eventually. But this yellow bone is going to go over the parchment on the purity seals, adorning his sword and shield. As well as this scroll work at the bottom. And the skull icon in the center. Alright, that's a little wet, but it's good enough. So a little more straight paint, especially on the forehead there. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to take a gamble and wrap up all the base coats here. So chaotic red. I find it kind of funny, but the inquisitorial rosettes also seem to bear a striking resemblance to the Adeptus Mastoris iconography. So here I'm just getting the wax portions of the purity seals, which are normally reserved for Space Marines, I thought, but I suppose the the Storm Priests would have access to them as well and be allowed to dispense them as well. It kind of makes sense for a Crusader, which implies a Holy Warrior, to have something like that on their personage as well. In addition, I'm trying to ramble in the worst way possible, so that's pretty good. That's base coats. I'm going to let it completely... Oh, wait. Missed one more bit that I want in parchment, and that's this tube here, this scroll. Okay. Clean my brush, and now that's base coats. So I'm going to let that all dry out completely. When I come back, it's time to start shading. Alright, time to shade. Red brick 09001. And this is the only one I'll be able to do right this minute, so... Thinning it out into a wash with 1 part water to 1 part paint. That flow over the base coat. There's not a whole lot of this compared to the other colors. Okay. I'm going to have to let that dry completely before I can move on to the next. It's a start though. Okay. The next shade is stained Ivory 09142. Still not sure how the focus thing is going because again, my setup has my monitor behind me while I'm painting. There's not really any other way I can do it with the space I have at home, so. And I don't have eyes in the back of my head either. Though that, when you think about it, eyes in the back of your head would literally be kind of creepy. And would definitely be considered a heretical mutation in Warhammer 40,000. And Age of Sigmar, or anything Warhammer related, really. Pull the parchment here. And when I highlight the gold, it'll probably mix in there, and I'm okay with that. We'll just see what it ends up doing. I'm going to have to look at some pictures and figure out what to put on that parchment there, but we'll get it figured out by the time I get there. So, let that dry completely and then I can move on. Okay. Ancient Bronze 09049. So when I'm listing a number, that implies a Reaper Master Series paint. When I do not, it's an Army paint or War paint. I was starting to transition from Reaper Master Series to Army Painter, and then that started getting hard to find too, causing me to resort to online sources exclusively to get paintings. So have been going back to the Reaper Master Series, which I do like quite a bit. Got a bit on the shield there. Let's wipe that off with a paper towel. That's why I keep it on hand. And just going over the gold here. Letting that flow into all the cracks and crevices. Which will make the lowest areas seem darker, and the lightest areas seem lighter when I apply the highlight. Shading generally does go pretty swiftly. Base coating takes the longest. And I found in most cases the highlighting can be done entirely in about 10 minutes for a single model, give or take. That does depend on size and complexity of your color scheme. Got a little bit of this on the back of the helmet. Let's just get that off of there. Alright. Get a little more on the grip right there. And now let that dry and move on in a bit. Still need to work on the focus thing, but I think I am making some progress. Okay. Oh, great. This again. Alright. Fine. We'll try to do something about this. See if it works out a little better. Okay. So, Blackened Steel 09205. This is going on the metal selectively. I'm going to use a different shade for the armor. Thinning that out. It's going to go on the chains connecting the holding up these holy trinkets. And the blade of the power sword, which will also have a lighting effect by the time I'm done. It's good for that. Now, Sparkling Blue 09104. This is a metallic blue. Thin that out. Now, using the normal Tarnished steel, Blackened Steel with this as a highlight will also produce a very interesting effect. This is the first time I've tried using it as a shader, but we'll just see what I end up with. Start in the helmet. This might work out well. I think I want to, you know what, I'm just going to keep my brush nice and wet, but I think I've just about got the consistency I want. Being careful on the icon on the shoulders. I'd rather not nick the brown if I can help it either. One on the back right there. It's part of his armor as well. It's a little thick on that one, but that's fine. Make sure I'm getting enough paint in here without overdoing it. Okay, so carefully going around the golden scroll work here. I'm working from the highest portion of the model to the lowest. That was another tricky one right there. Oh, that went out of control, so got the paper towel in there to soak up the spillage. Give it another little bit, that should be alright. And now, I'm going to go over the back of the shield, avoiding the gold here, and just get all of this. Again, keeping my brush very wet during this. And letting gravity just put the paint where it wants to whenever possible. little bit it got on the toe, so just get that in there and blot it out. For all, it's important to have the shield is also a bearer of the heraldry, so it's important it match the armor. So you're not wrong if you want it to match the weaponry then. Going around the gold, try not to hit it. Alright. So that's just going to leave the brown. I need to let this dry first, but I'm just about there. It's looking really good so far. Okay. These are dry enough I can move on, so before I do the last shade, I'm going to prep some lighting effects with matte white. A lot of the times I end up doing this off camera, but especially if there's a lot of them, but I'm going to switch over to a smaller detail brush for this. So I'm going to get the optic on the helmet. And this looks like a sensor to me as well, possibly another optic tied to the helmet. These two little bits here. I'm going to thin it out a little, not as much as with a wash, but maybe half a part water to 1 part paint and just get the power unit on the side of the blade here. And then these emitters. And that's going to get a rough, kind of a jagged pattern going in the white through here. Something along the lines of that. That's all I want lit up, so now Woodstain Brown 09160. And I'll have to be careful on some of these. Get that thinned out, 1 part water to 1 part paint. Get the scabbard for the dagger. And this cloth here, this tabard, I suppose will be the proper word for it, though I'm not completely certain if it applies in this case. I just can't really see there too well, but I'm going to get it anyway. Get the boots. What I got on this shield, just blot that out real quick. I want to let this just flow all over. I want to get the arms before I go to the bulk of the body, though. Kind of has the look of a medieval monk, which, again, that's appropriate. And I'm going to be real careful in the back, especially as I get closer to the trim. getting the hood, and the fact that his robe has a hood means he's got to have it up at some point. At what point is beyond me. I don't know exactly when. Ceremony, probably. In combat, who knows? Just an interesting detail to it. I've been trying to keep the brown off of the gold. And now I think the white's dry enough I can do the lighting effects. So, Vampire Red, which is also going to be my highlight for the red on it, but need very little of this. For a lighting effect, you want 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint. Getting this super thin. I'm gonna put it these, which I believe are meant to be visual. Okay, I'm gonna need to redo that. That's not what I want on the helmet. Maybe I can get some paint that's a little thicker. And that's slightly better, but still kind of going. It's still kind of overflowing here. I don't want that, so I'm just gonna get a little more paint out there. Do it not quite so thin. The sensor on the shield is fine. I kind of view that as a secondary optic sensor. Most likely, de Montbard has this linked up to his eyes. Looking at it through a screen in his helmet. And now I'm going to take sparkling blue again, the 09104, and thin it out heavily again, just a tiny dot. 2 to 3 parts water, maybe as many as 4 on this. The key is for some of the white to be showing in the end. Just dots on the dots there. Big ones are going to be along the power cell here. And along the emitters. I'm not going over the entire blade, but I do just want to get the section I did in white. And that's pretty good. Okay. Now once all that dries completely, I can highlight, detail, and wrap up. So back in a bit. Okay, time to highlight. Going to start with Driftwood Brown 09162. Just get that paper towel in view there. Enough. No water, straight paint only. You're going to want a ragged feathered brush, something along the lines of this. And rub most of your paint out on the paper towel until it looks like there's nothing left. And dust the area to be affected, trying to go against any raised edges. Those will catch the paint better and help make them pop. Now I'm also focusing on the most readily visible surfaces only. So I'm not going to bother with the interior of the coat you can see, or cloak you can see, just the exterior surface. This is really visible best from the back. Especially as I go across these folds here. Avoiding the gold on the bottom. Okay. And I'm working from the lowest area to the highest. So I will do the steel next. True Silver 09207. This will go on all of it. Regardless of how it's shaded. This particular bottle's about empty, but I do have a spare. It looks like a little bit of wind coming in. Maybe a storm on the way, so we'll see what happens with that as I go along. You want your brush completely dry, so I'm swabbing pretty freely. That's making me a little nervous, that wiggle, but it should be alright. So you'll see here the highlights catching the edges and raised parts, but it's leaving the lighting effect mostly intact. And the parts where it does cover up is fine, just fine. Avoiding the gold. Just kind of polishing and honing up the rest of the steel, breastplate. And so this is looking reasonably close. I think they might have used a metallic white to highlight the armor, which I do have, but I think I'm going to just stick with this and call it good. Although thinking about the aspect of humility in Gotfret de Montbard here. Montbard. I think the being the last survivor of his crusade might have been enough to give him a little humility. I'm just giving a nominal dusting on the components on the back. I'm not doing too much with it. Front of the shield, though, I definitely want to give it a nice, just give it a nice coat of polish here. It's not bad. Not bad. Okay, how about New Gold 09051 next? I can't say the name Gotfret de Montbard without thinking of the taunting Frenchman from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Although in the case of the Imperial Crusader here, a severe taunting is only the second worst thing he can do to you. Got my head a little too close to the camera there. And just running up all this gold. Being a little more cautious on the trim because I'd rather keep this off the brown if I can avoid it. There's a little extra straight paint right there where the brown intruded during shading. So this stuff we can kind of patch things up like that. It's got the gold pretty good. Let's see, next let's do the ivory. So creamy ivory 09144. Get the parchment. A little more than that. Tighten that up just a little more. Drop my brush that I was picking up. That will work too. It's just going to leave Vampire Red. I don't need too much of this. Although I might need more than I think I do right this second. We'll just see how it goes here. Just polish up the wax. See if I can get the skull on the seal to pop a little more. It's not bad. It's not too bad there either. And that's it for the highlights, but I got a few details to take care of. Get my brushes put up real quick here first. So matte black. So, a little closer here. And where's my finest detail brush? Right there. Using just enough water to thin the paint and get this nice and pointy. I'm just gonna just some random lines to give the impression of text on the parchment. And then getting this brush nice and pointy very carefully. Just a quick purge, but it looks a little odd. I'm just going to roll with it. I'm just going to roll with it. It's difficult to write with a paintbrush. So we're just going to go. Let's just try. And it's a little better, but still difficult to read. This brush isn't quite as pointy as it used to be, but it's still good for details. And now I'm going to take a flathead brush in the same matte black, using just enough water to thin the paint. Just carefully line the edge, being careful where the sword tip and the cloak come close to the edge of the base. The purpose of this is just to clean it up and just polish it. Don't want to cover any of the details I've just finished painting. Now I'm going to let this dry completely. Oh, I missed a little bit right there. There we go. Now let this dry completely. When it does, I can apply some basic material. So I'm going to come back in a little bit and do exactly that. Okay, time to base. White glue and water. I'm using again a mix of coarse and fine talus or rock debris. Using a convenient container, get the glue in there. That onto the side. And some water. Mix that up, keeping the brush very wet during all this. And I'm going to carefully mix up a little more. Now carefully paint around the model's feet. Go all the way up to the edge. Let's get nice solid coverage of this here. Give it a dip in the material. First brush the excess off with the thumb around the edge. I'm going to take a spare brush that's dry. Just push it away from where I don't want it. Okay, let's try that again with a little more of the solution and see if I can't get this a little deeper into the fine block or fine debris towards the bottom there. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not my best job, but not too bad. So, I need to let that set for at least 20 minutes, contingent on the temperature and humidity. And then I can seal it and wrap up, so back in a bit. Okay. Last step I can do on camera, Scenic Cement, which is a sprayer brush on adhesive that Woodland Scenic puts out. So the only thing I can't do on camera is spray this down with a varnish when I'm done. But we're just going to drip this into the talus. It's had plenty of time to dry because I got caught up on the phone with an old friend and on Discord with my girlfriend about a work-related minor crisis. But that's my business. And cleaning out my eyedropper, which is glass, because this stuff will bond to plastic. I'm behind where I want to be day-wise. I want to try to get started and mostly finish another model before I call it a night, but there we go. Gotfret de Montbard from the Blackstone Fortress Escalation expansion. Last Explorers coming up next. Until then, I'm Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.